So, Franta, it's very nice to have you here today to talk about 2.5 liners a little bit, and I'm very eager to hear your insights about the whole topic as the UP chef designer. So maybe first of all, can you explain what is a 2.5 liner, and are all 2.5 liners the same, or are there differences?
I will start from the end. They are, of course, not the same. Different designers, different brands, they make similar idea on their own ways. But if we talk about UP 2.5 liners, they are similar. So it's from KIBO on the bottom end, KIBO X on the bottom end, to the TRANGO X on the top end, between Summit, KANGRI, and these wings. They all have some similar points or some similar origin, some similar base. And it's that in the middle of the wing, it's like a typical 3-liner, but the outer tip, outer part of the wing, the group of the line A3, B3, it's a 2-liner. That group is a 2-liner. So it's a compromise between a 3-liner and a 2-liner.
Okay. And what's the advantage of having a 2.5 liner compared to a 3-liner?
Yeah, the first advantage we have thought about is to spare some lines, because it's a line drag, it's a performance thing. So we started on that project with the TRANGO X. It was the first glider we started that project to work on. And the first is a line drag, but we found out that if we work well with this idea or with this system, it brings another advantages. So not only the line drag, it spares some weight of the canopy as well, because you have less lines, less attachment points. So it's as well some weight, and the glider behaves a bit different, not completely different than the previous models, than 3-liners, but they behave a bit different, and you can take advantages out of that.
And you said that there's extra performance. Where exactly does the extra performance come from? Is it only less lines, or?
No, it's less lines on one side. On another side, when you go to the accelerated flight, it's much easier on that external part to arrange the right angle of attack on a 2-liner system than on a 3-liner system. It's much easier because in the center of the wing, in the center part of the wing, the chord is deep, and then the tip is elliptic form. As elliptic form of the wing, the tip is more narrow, and then it's quite complicated to make accelerators on the risers. Sometimes in old wings, in old times, it was quite complicated, the accelerator, the risers. So now it's much easier, and especially there on accelerated flight, you gain the best performance advantage with the 2.5 liner, with the hybrids.
And since there are advantages, are there also disadvantages? Because I think there's a prejudice that, for example, collapses are more dangerous on a 2.5 liner. Is that true, or what can you say about this?
To be honest, when we started to work on the first of these X projects, so it was a TRANGO X, we were afraid of that. We were a bit skeptic, we were afraid of that. But I can say, if you find the right way how to handle the things you were afraid of, then we have seen that it works well, and we don't see any safety disadvantages. Because for the safety, the most important, for example, for the collapse resistance or collapse safety, the most important is the center part. So if the tips are a bit flappy, it's not that a big problem. If the center part stays opened, stays uncollapsed. And the tips on the 2-liners, they are even not flappy, what you would expect or what we was afraid at the beginning. So I would say there is no collapse disadvantage. Even there are some advantages on collapse, because the glider can consume the energy a bit better. I would say it would be quite complicated to explain completely, but in general, with the TRANGO X, KIBO X, Summit X, these gliders are not less safe or more collapse problematic than the predecessors. I would say they are even better.
And since the line setup is quite different, of course, on a 2.5 liner, is there any change in the canopy as well? For example, is there something related to aspect ratio, or is there any differences from 2.5 liners to 3 liners?
That 2.5 concept is not related to aspect ratio. There is no relation between these two things. So you make a wing like KIBO predecessor, KIBO X predecessor, and KIBO X. They are about the same aspect ratio. There is no difference coming of that. The wing every time is the whole concept of the wing. It has to work together. And then if it's lower aspect ratio for KIBO X or Summit X, higher and even higher TRANGO X, it works on every aspect ratio, I would say. So you have the whole concept of the wing, and the aspect ratio doesn't matter.
And in terms of certification, are there any differences in how the gliders are certified? Do you have to use different maneuvers or anything like this?
I think I know what you are asking about, because a lot of people, they think if it's a 2.5 liner, there are folding lines used. I expect you are asking about this point. Yes. Yeah, the folding lines are used on the 2 liners because the A lines attachment points are very far from the leading edge. And when you try, and especially A lines are split it into 2. There's a typical 2 liner in the center part, and then on the tip, the group of the third lines is just A lines with no splitting. But that center part, you wouldn't be able to collapse to make a front stall or to make a asymmetric collapse, especially on a trim speed. You wouldn't be able to make it, to arrange that, because you just don't have powers in your hands. I will tell something about TRANGO with this point. Remind me, please. So when you talk about the safety and about the collapse resistance and the 2.5 liners, the folding lines are not used there.
Okay, so
they
for certification,
not necessary to be used for the certification, because what the folding lines, what they make, you have the splitted A points like this. So front A's, rear A's, front B's, rear B's. This is a typical 2-liner. And then these points are far away from the leading edge, far away. And you want to make a collapse. And for the collapse, you need to pull down the leading edge. But as these points are very far away, especially the rear ones, when you pull down, you can't fold it down. So for that, you use the folding lines, what are attached really in the front, very close to the air intake. Yeah. And then you pull down, and the glider, you roll down like this. This is the way how you achieve front stall or asymmetric collapse in general, with the gliders using folding lines, with the 2-liners. And I would say it's a little fake, because this collapse looks completely different than the real collapse on such kind of the wing.
Yes.
If we are talking about 2.5 liners, we are not using the folding lines. They are not necessary, because in the center of the wing you have ABC lines, so you normally just put the A lines down. There is just one exception about that. It's TRANGO X on the L size, because the test pilots, even our company test pilots or the certification laboratory test pilots, they have been flying the wing with such a lot of ballast, because they are just not
they're not that
heavy enough. Yeah. So as they are flying with such a lot of ballast, they don't have enough muscles to pull down. Still, the glider, even on full speed, the glider is quite solid and quite stable on the accelerator, even on the full speed. So they had to use the folding lines to have enough power to pull the leading edge down. So this is the only glider of all the X gliders we are talking about, KIBO, Summit, KANGRI, TRANGO. Only one glider, one size on maximum weight, and not because we had to cheat somehow the collapse, but just the test pilot doesn't have
it didn't work. Yeah. Okay.
They haven't been able without that to make the collapse. So it's Normally, you don't have a folding lines
Or
on
much difference in
hybrid two-liners. We don't use folding lines. We don't need them. So you have a normal standard collapse behavior like any other B category glider for KIBO, Summit, or TRANGO, old gliders with 3 liners. There is no trick to make the collapse easier during certification of this glider.
Okay. Since we're talking about maneuvers and inducing collapses, for the descent tactics or descent maneuvers, for example, like pulling ears or doing a B stall, is there differences on a 2.5 liner, especially for the B stall, for example, since you have less B lines? Is there a difference? Is it possible?
No, we have made the gliders, the risers, and the line system the way that the B, external B, B3, is attached to the B riser. So you just grab the Bs, for example, and make the B stall. And it's not more demanding than on 3-liner wings of the same category. So the question for the B stall, the question is the airfoil, for sure, the aspect ratio, for sure. So it's again the whole complex around the wing, the whole complex design, but there is no problem to relate it to the 2.5 liner the way the X gliders from UP are made. So that means you can make B stall on the KIBO X, Summit X, TRANGO X. You can make B stalls on these gliders without any problem. You can make big ears, you can make them easily. So
everything
you can make spiral if we talk in general about decent techniques. So there is nothing, no problem related to that.
Okay, and since we talked about maneuvers and descent maneuvers, maybe we can talk a little bit more about the how difficult the wings are to fly. So is it more demanding than a 3-liner, or is there any difference in how the pilot has to fly the wing? Is it more demanding or not?
In general, I would say all these wings in the X line, they are made as a next generation of the previous gliders. So if we talk TRANGO X to the previous TRANGO, I think it was X-Race, if I'm right.
Yes.
100% sure. Yes, thank you. If we talk about these two gliders, the X is easier. It has more performance. It's faster. It's much more stable in the air. It's a big step forward. We talk about this glider, and it's not more demanding to be flown. It's very nice, easy glider, and the handling is a bit different, but still it's very nice handling. I'm not saying worse. For sure, not worse.
Different. Yeah.
I'm saying different. For those who are used for TRANGO X, if they go to the new one, the first flight, they could be like, say, oh, it's different. But in my opinion, it's for sure not worse. And the other wings, it's similar. Summit, KANGRI, very beautiful wing. KIBO, very beautiful wing. From KIBO, there is more performance, KIBO X compared to previous one. So I would say there is that step forward. But still, I wouldn't say it's more demanding. It's more complicated, easy handling, super easy takeoff, things like that. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. And then one more question about your outlook for the future. So we have seen 2-liners being introduced into the C category. We now have the KIBO X as a mid B wing with 2.5 liner. Do you think that the whole 2.5 liner concept will maybe even push into low B or even high A wings? What's your outlook for this? Will 3-liners be completely gone in the future, or what's your take on this?
I wouldn't say if the 3-liners completely disappear in the future. I'm not sure about that. To be honest, we've been even thinking about making the new wings in A category, or like successors of Remo and then 2.5 liners. But I think I would say there is no reason for that. because there is no pressure to make the wing rigid in the air. There is no pressure to make it higher performance on accelerator, because these pilots, they use accelerator very little. So things like that. So I'm not sure if all the wings are going to be built as a 2.5 liner. There is a big difference. You were talking about 2 liners in C category and the 2.5 liners, these hybrids in C category, B category, and the question if maybe A category in future. I would say there is a very small difference between 2.5 liner and 3 liner. There is a very small difference. What you can say, if you don't watch the canopy and you fly the wing, you just say it's a nice wing. And you don't say it's a completely different word of flying. And I think especially what I said about this, I don't know if to call it fake or cheating. It's, the norm has been changed to be able to make some 2 liners in a C category. The norm has to be changed, because if there is no change of the norm, we still have only D category 2 liners. So I would say there is a big difference. There is a big difference there. There is not that big difference if we are talking about the glider behavior, demanding, not demanding, safety, not safety, I don't see any big difference there.
Okay, so in your opinion, the half step from 3 to 2.5 is way closer than the step from 2.5 to 2 liners. So the half is a bit bigger on the step down.
In my opinion, I think that 2 liner in C category, there are many pilots who want to fly that. There are 2 ways how to make a 2 liner in C category. Either you push for performance and you have the glider what is almost narrow. You have almost this glider, because this glider has almost all the maneuvers in C category. They are just on some weight, maximum weight. So, for example, mini weight can be completely C, and one full speed asymmetric collapse is D on the maxi weight, and things like that. So we can say it's almost ENC glider. So you push for the high performance, but it's completely different wing for flying, for your skills, what are necessary to fly compared to TRANGO. So that's one way how you can make an ENC2 glider. You can make it either very performant or either performant and then quite demanding, or maybe very, very demanding, depends what kind of pilot you are. Or you have TRANGO and it's quite easy wing compared to that with good performance. And you can make a 2 liner what can be way safer, but it's a question of what kind of performance, because to get that performance, you have to lose, or to get the good safety, you have to lose a lot of performance.
Okay, so a little excursion into 2 liners. Let's get back to let's get back to the 2.5 liners again. Talking about the 2.5 liners that UP has in range. Which wings are there, and maybe 1 or 2 sentences from you about the models.
So we started to work on this hybrid concept. We started with the TRANGO, and as we have seen that it works well, and we have got a lot of experience of that project, and we found that it's not necessarily to be more demanding, more dangerous. We started to use that for Summit, KIBO X. Now we have the lightweight glider similar to Summit. It's not a lightweight version of Summit, it's KANGRI X. So these are the models we have, and we expect the new future models, at least of KIBO X, the lightweight brother, to come sooner or later. LHOTSE X. That's very probable. And
okay.
This one will.
So all the 2.5 liners at UP are usually marked with the X.
Yeah, yeah.
And it stands for the crossing of the best worlds of 3 and 2 liners.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your insights, Franta. It was very interesting.
You're welcome.